So now, this is the thing that I get asked the most, and this is probably the thing that's going to make this video the longest, and that is, how do I edit my photos? And when someone asks me that, when someone, you know, asks me that, I cannot say asks, oh my gosh, when someone needs help editing their photos, the first thing I ask them is, what is your theme? What kind of photos do you like, you know? Because if your selfie is something that you like, I don't know, maybe you like your photos to be a lot darker, or maybe you like your photos to be a lot more saturated, or maybe you like your photos to be a lot more cool. It's just all kind of based on what you want your photos to look like. So for example, for me, I just kind of mix around what I want to do. I just kind of wait and see, okay, do I like this? Okay, I like it. Do I like this? Nope. It needs more, you know, it needs more fade, it needs more grain, it needs more saturation, it needs more temperature, like things like that. I definitely suggest just kind of playing around with edits. Don't really set yourself to a certain theme unless that's something you want to do, because I tried all my life to set myself to a certain theme when it comes to selfies, and it never works out, because, you know, some days are going to be better than others when it comes to taking photos, so you got to keep that in mind when you're trying to keep a set theme and a set routine for every one of your photos. So, you guys were asking me also for some editing apps. What are some really good apps that I can use to edit my photos? A lot of you guys say that when you guys try to get these apps, all the bad filters are, you know, free, and then all the good ones you have to pay for. Well, I got a hack for you, girl. So, let's get on into some really cool editing apps that you guys might be able to use. And these are all going to be free, so don't worry. I got you guys. So, let's start with the apps. I know that they're in this list of apps that I have. There are some that are a lot more complex than others, and I'm going to be able to give you guys a variety of apps that are not hard to understand, and then some that you may need a little bit of knowledge about photography. Holy crap, is that thunder? Oh my god. It's about to come a literal storm here. But the first app I want to talk about is VSCO Cam, or VSCO Cam. If you don't know about this app, what are you doing with your life? Now, before we get into anything, I did buy some of the filters, but they have the filters that they give you for free are really good, okay? They are really good. This app has more than just filters, though. There's a toolbar to where you can edit the brightness, the contrast, the saturation, the exposure, different things like that, which is always great to have in an editor, especially when you're kind of just starting out. When you have all those tools right there, it really helps you, so you don't have to go back and forth between different apps, because as a beginner, you know, photographer, someone who's getting into editing, something like that, having to go from app to app is going to lower the quality of your image, and you really don't want that to happen. The next app is an app that, if you haven't heard of, then you probably live under a rock. I don't know. It's Facetune. A lot of you guys were telling me that Facetune costed you guys money and that you guys couldn't afford it. I got an alternative for Facetune, but Facetune, for me, it was free for me. On the Android phone, it was free, but I did buy it when I had my iPhone. It's such a good app, and I can't stress to you guys enough how great the app is. And I know what you're saying, oh, it's really great to, you know, edit your makeup. No, it's really great because there's so many different tools in this to just make your photo pop. And there's this tool called Details, and I can't stress to you guys how much I love this tool. It will literally make your photos look like perfect. I take the Details tool over my eyes a lot in all my photos because it just makes my eye, like, it brings my eyes out. It brings them out a lot, and it kind of just makes them pop a little bit more. Another tool in this is the defocus tool, or the blur tool. A lot of you guys ask me how I get my backgrounds blurred in all my photos. Luckily for me, it came on my phone as portrait mode, but if you just so happen to not have a phone that has portrait mode, Facetune has that in the app. There's also this there's also filters in the app, but they aren't really that good. I might just honestly. The next app that I want to talk to you guys about is Snapseed. I use Snapseed for literally every photo I ever take in some way. In some way, Snapseed is incorporated in all my selfies. And I say this because, as I said previously, that some days are better than others when it comes to selfies and things like that. So there's going to be some days when maybe you're not looking as tan as you really are. Snapseed has this tool called Brush, and you have different options to use the brush, and there's a saturation brush. And you take that saturation brush and you can run it over your face, and it makes you look a little bit more tan. Now, is that like editing you out? No, it's just warming up the photo and making you look a lot more, you know, darker, tanner, things like that, for the sake of your tanness. There's also a tool in that brush, I'm saying tool way too much, called exposure. Now this, I like to use this a lot when I'm taking photos in the dark with my stick light. I like to take the exposure tool and turn the exposure all the way down, or down just a little bit, and I like to darken the background so I'm the main focus. That's a really cool tool to use if you maybe don't want to blur out the background, but you really want to make yourself the main focus and the one thing that stands out in the photo the most. The next app I'm going to be talking about is Adobe Lightroom. A lot of you guys know that this app is one of my favorite apps. I love this app, but it's a really, really complex app, and if you're not familiar with the platform, you're not going to understand how to use it. So there's this little icon on the toolbar thing that's called Color, and in the corner there's a tool called Mix. If you click Mix, it'll show up all the different colors that are seen in the photos, or in the photo, and you can edit whatever you want when it comes to, you know, the different types of colors. So like I know for orange, like in photos, orange is typically your skin. If you're taking like a photo outside, if there's a blue, like a sky in it, the blues, you can change the blues. Just different things like that with that mix tool can really affect how your photo turns out. And lastly, PicsArt. PicsArt is such a good app. I use PicsArt to edit my thumbnails. I use PicsArt for literally everything. I think it's a really good app to use if you maybe want to change your background but you don't want to pay for Superimpose. PicsArt is kind of like your alternative to Superimpose, and PicsArt is free unless you want to subscribe and get more options. But I've found that like I get just as much, you know, options and tools with the free version that I do with the pricier version, so I just haven't subscribed to it. I like to use PicsArt to maybe change backgrounds, so if I maybe don't like the background of a photo, or someone messages me and wants me to edit their photo in a way of like, you know, changing the background, maybe they don't like the background, I use PicsArt to do that. Also, for collages, I love using PicsArt for collages. I think PicsArt is so freaking good for collages. You guys can see that photo I posted recently on my Instagram, I've done that on PicsArt. It's just such a good app to use when it comes to literally anything except filters, because like I don't like their filters at all. That's just a personal preference for me. I just don't like their filters. If you do like their filters, I'm gonna give you guys a hack, okay? A hack. So you like their filters, but you know, they're good filters you have to pay for. Well, don't worry. You want to know what you do? You screenshot it. So maybe you have this filter that you like on PicsArt, but you have to pay for it. You just put the filter onto the photo, and you can go add your other effects. For some reason, PicsArt lets you do that. And then you can screenshot it, and then boom, perfect. You can also do that for VSCO. There's filters you have to buy, but you can always just screenshot it. The more you know. So yeah, those are the apps that I like to use. So yeah.